everybody, welcome back to my channel.
Omar Sharif was a legendary Egyptian actor renowned for his charismatic presence, international appeal, and versatile talent. Born Michel Dimitri Chalhoub on April 10, 1932, in Alexandria, Egypt. He began his acting career in Egyptian cinema in the 1950s before breaking into Hollywood with a landmark role in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962. His portrayal of Sharif Ali in that film earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor and launched him to global stardom. Sharif solidified his international fame with the romantic epic Dr. Zhivago, 1965, in which he played the title role of Yuri Zhivago, a physician and poet caught in the turmoil of the Russian Revolution. His soulful performance, paired with his distinctive good looks and deep, expressive eyes, made him a cinematic icon of the 1960s. Fluent in several languages, Sharif had a unique ability to transcend cultural boundaries. Over his career, he acted in films in English, French, Italian, Spanish, and Arabic. Despite his success in Hollywood, he never fully left Egyptian cinema and remained an important figure in Arab film. Beyond acting, Omar Sharif was also a world-class bridge player, co-authoring several books and columns on the game. In his later years, he spoke candidly about the challenges of fame and identity, particularly as an Arab actor in the West. Sharif received numerous honors for his contribution to cinema and culture, including a César Award for Best Actor in 2003 for his role in Monsieur Ibrahim. He passed away on July 10, 2015. At the age of 83, leaving behind a rich legacy that bridged East and West, Old World elegance and modern cinematic storytelling. Early life and origins. Omar Sharif was born Michel Dimitri Chalhoub to a well-off Melkite Greek Catholic family in Alexandria, Egypt. His father was a lumber merchant, and his mother a prominent society hostess who once reportedly played cards with King Farouk. Sharif studied mathematics and physics at Cairo University, then went on to study acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA, in London. He converted to Islam and changed his name to Omar al-Sharif when he married Fatin Hamama, the leading lady of Egyptian cinema, in 1955. Their love story, both real and cinematic, captivated audiences across the Arab world. Rise to fame in Egyptian cinema before Hollywood discovered him. Sharif was already a star in Egypt. He made his film debut in Struggle in the Valley, 1954, alongside Fatin Hamama. Over the next decade, he acted in numerous Arabic-language films that showcased his charm, intelligence, and range, often playing romantic or conflicted heroes. Sharif was a pivotal figure in what is often considered the golden age of Egyptian cinema, working with top directors like Youssef Chahine and cementing his status as a pan-Arab cultural icon. International breakthrough. Lawrence of Arabia. His international breakthrough came when director David Lean cast him as Sharif Ali in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, co-starring Peter O'Toole. The role was complex and dignified, giving Western audiences a rare, nuanced portrayal of an Arab character. It earned him a Golden Globe Award, Best Supporting Actor, a Golden Globe for New Star of the Year, and an Oscar nomination. His memorable entrance in the film, a shimmering figure approaching across the desert horizon, is considered one of the most iconic character introductions in film history. Hollywood and beyond. Sharif followed up with starring roles in major films, Dr. Zhivago, 1965, as the tragic Russian poet-physician, Funny Girl, 1968, opposite Barbra Streisand. In a performance that sparked both critical acclaim and controversy over their interracial on-screen romance, The Night of the Generals, 1967, McKenna's Gold, 1969, The Tamarind Seed, 1974. His global stardom was marked by elegance and cosmopolitanism, but he often lamented the lack of meaningful roles for Middle Eastern actors in Hollywood. By the 1970s, he appeared in a series of less successful films and his Hollywood career began to fade. A man of many worlds, Sharif often felt torn between his Egyptian identity and his global fame. He spent much of his life in Paris, spoke several languages, and was often seen as the embodiment of a worldly, urbane intellectual. He also had personal struggles. He and Faten Hamama divorced in 1974, reportedly due to his prolonged absences and international lifestyle. He battled a gambling addiction and was a world-ranked contract bridge player, even creating the Omar Sharif Bridge Circus and authoring bridge books. Later years and legacy. In his later years, Sharif returned to more serious, introspective roles. His performance in Monsieur Ibrahim, 2003, as a wise Muslim shopkeeper who befriends a Jewish boy in 1960s Paris, earned him critical acclaim and a César Award, the French Oscar equivalent. He was awarded the UNESCO Sergei Eisenstein Medal in recognition of his contributions to world cinema and cultural dialogue. Sharif was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in his final years and died of a heart attack in Cairo on July 10, 2015. Cultural impact. Omar Sharif's life and career were emblematic of a unique bridge between East and West, traditional and modern, Egyptian and international. He challenged stereotypes of Arabs in Western media, brought Arabic cinema to global attention, and inspired generations of actors from the Middle East and beyond. His legacy continues through his films, his groundbreaking career path, and the cultural barriers he helped dismantle with elegance, intellect, and enduring charisma. Omar Sharif, the man between worlds, a life of duality. Omar Sharif was not just a movie star. He was a man suspended between civilizations. A symbol of what it means to be both rooted in an ancient culture and embraced by modern global fame. Born in colonial Egypt, of Levantine Christian descent, educated in British-style schools, and later trained at RADA in London, he lived at the crossroads of East and West, faith and secularism, identity and performance. When he converted to Islam to marry Faten Hamama, it was more than a romantic gesture, it was the first of many transformations that would define his chameleon-like public life. The Egyptian icon who left Egypt, though he was one of Egypt's most beloved film stars. Sharif's decision to leave for Hollywood in the early 1960s marked a turning point, both for him and for Egyptian cinema. He left behind a booming Arab film industry to pursue a career in the West. And with that came compromise. He later expressed regret about this in interviews, saying he lost contact with his home country and its people, and that the roles he took in Western cinema often lacked the cultural or emotional depth of his early Egyptian films. In his words, "I lost my homeland, my career in Egyptian cinema, and my wife. For what? A few years of stardom?" Yet, his absence also elevated his mythos. For many Arabs, he remained a symbol of what an Arab artist could be: sophisticated, global, eloquent, and graceful, even as he grew apart from the region. Romance and loneliness. Sharif's relationship with Faten Hamama was the stuff of legends, both on screen and off. Their marriage was intensely passionate but strained by distance and career choices. When she refused to move abroad, Sharif chose Hollywood. They divorced, but he never remarried. In his later years, he admitted he had never truly loved anyone else. His life was filled with glamorous parties, gambling, and intellectual pursuits, but also a profound loneliness. "I was a playboy. I had women, fame, everything. But in the end, I was alone." The weight of typecasting and the Western gaze. As a Middle Eastern actor in Western cinema, Sharif frequently faced typecasting. Despite his fluency in English and European elegance, he was often assigned the role of the exotic other, the Arab sheikh, the Persian king, the Turkish general. His casting opposite Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl caused controversy, both because of her Jewish identity and the then ongoing Arab-Israeli conflict. Sharif was criticized in Egypt for even kissing her on screen. His defiant reply, "I told them to grow up. It's just a film." This moment reflected his cosmopolitan defiance of tribalism, a belief in the shared humanity of art, even in the face of political division. Bridge, brilliance. In the intellectual life, Sharif wasn't just a movie star. He was a polymath, deeply intellectual, widely read, and fluent in 6 languages. He was one of the world's top bridge players, a pursuit he took seriously enough to write columns, publish books, and form a traveling bridge team. He saw bridge not just as a game, but as a mental discipline, a way to think strategically about life itself. In many ways, Sharif was more European in lifestyle than Egyptian, yet he never disowned his Arab identity. Instead, he carried it like an embroidered garment, sometimes tightly wrapped, sometimes loosely draped, but always present. Final years and reflections. As he aged, Sharif stepped back from the limelight. His role in Monsieur Ibrahim, 2003, marked a return to form, a quiet, philosophical performance that reminded audiences of his deep emotional reservoir. In that film, he plays a Muslim shopkeeper who mentors a Jewish boy, a metaphor for Sharif's belief in interfaith empathy and humanist values. Diagnosed with Alzheimer's in his final years, he faded from public life. When he died in 2015, he was mourned not only in Egypt but across the Arab world and the West, a rare, shared grief that few cultural figures inspire. Blue Square legacy. An Arab star who lit the global stage. Omar Sharif left behind more than films. He left a blueprint for artists caught between cultures, for thinkers who belong to many worlds and yet fully to none. He was a trailblazer for Middle Eastern representation in global cinema, a romantic figure whose personal life mirrored the roles he played, a tragic character, by his own admission. Consumed by solitude and longing, and a symbol of bridge building, across continents, cultures, and creeds. His story is a parable of what happens when talent transcends boundaries, but also what it costs to live without one true home. The tragic elegance of Omar Sharif. A cultural meditation. Small diamond. A star forged in empire and revolution. Omar Sharif was born in 1932 into a cosmopolitan Egypt, a country still under strong British influence, where French was spoken in cafes and Alexandria was a Mediterranean crossroads of languages, religions, and cultures. His life spanned the end of colonialism, the rise of Arab nationalism, the Nasser era, and the globalization of culture through film. In a sense, Sharif embodied the post-colonial subject, shaped by empire, educated in elite institutions, and thrown onto the world stage with a passport that both opened doors and marked him as other. He was never entirely at home anywhere again, not in Egypt, not in Paris, not in Hollywood. Small diamond. Hollywood's mirage. After Lawrence of Arabia, Hollywood saw Sharif as the perfect blend of exotic allure and European polish. He wasn't a typical ethnic actor. He could pass for Russian, Dr. Zhivago, Jewish, Funny Girl, or even Indian, Genghis Khan, a miscast, but revealing of how his ambiguity was commodified. But the praise came with limitation. Hollywood did not know what to do with an Arab actor who wasn't a villain, terrorist, or one-dimensional sheikh. Sharif, aware of this, once said, "Typecasting is a prison. I played everything except what I was. His popularity gradually declined not because of a lack of talent, but because the industry failed to create serious roles for actors outside the white Western mold. Small diamond between East and West, always misunderstood in the Arab world. Sharif was occasionally viewed with suspicion for his Western lifestyle, his relationships with Jewish and Christian women, his outspoken criticism of authoritarianism, and his refusal to participate in nationalist propaganda. At the same time, he was fiercely proud of his roots. He never denied being Arab. He corrected Western journalists when they lumped Arab into stereotypes. Yet he also criticized conservatism and intolerance in Arab societies. We Arabs have a complex. We must learn to laugh at ourselves, to open ourselves to the world. He lived in that tense liminal space, too Western for the East, too Eastern for the West. Small diamond loneliness, gambling, and the cost of freedom. Sharif had everything the world celebrates: fame, beauty, intelligence, wealth. But behind the glamour was a man who, by his own words, drank and gambled to fill a void. His legendary bridge playing was as much a discipline as a distraction. He once lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single night. But money seemed less important to him than connection, something he lost when he gave up his family for a global career. In later interviews, he spoke often of regret, not bitterly, but wistfully. He loved cinema, but his greatest performance may have been the role of Omar Sharif himself, the dashing, witty, cultured icon the world expected him to be. Small diamond. His final message: art as bridge, not weapon. Monsieur Ibrahim, 2003, was more than a film, it was a thesis statement for Omar Sharif's worldview. A Muslim man befriends a lonely Jewish boy, they explore Paris, Istanbul, and spiritual wisdom, no dogma, only kindness and curiosity. That character, wise, warm, and culturally hybrid, was closer to Sharif than any hero he'd ever played. By then, he had become what the poet Mahmoud Darwish called a guest of the world, admired everywhere, at home nowhere. Green Square. Eternal symbolism. Omar Sharif endures not just for his movies, but for what he represented: the modern Arab artist trying to be global without becoming invisible, the cost of ambition when it pulls you away from your roots, the longing for unity in a fractured, politicized world. He is more than a nostalgic figure, he is a case study in the politics of identity, fame, and cultural translation. To many, he remains a singular star. The first Arab actor to be adored in both Cairo and California, in Beirut and Berlin, in Paris and New York. Omar Sharif was not just a bridge between cultures, he was the river that ran beneath them. Omar Sharif, a portrait in light and shadow. Large diamond. The Arab without a country. By the end of his life, Omar Sharif had become a kind of wandering figure, one who belonged to no nation in full. He was born in a colonized Arab world, became a star in a pan-Arab golden age, was celebrated by Western imperial culture, and died as something of an outsider to all of them. He spoke perfect Arabic, English, French, Greek, Italian, and Spanish, and belonged fully to none of their nations. When asked about nationality, he once answered, "I am Egyptian. But I'm also Mediterranean. Also French. A little English, even a little Jewish. I don't believe in flags. I believe in people." In this way, Sharif foreshadowed the post-identity world many now aspire to, and also paid the price for it. He was welcomed everywhere, but never quite embraced as one of their own. Even in Egypt, many regarded him as a tragic symbol of what it means to succeed at the cost of belonging. Large diamond. The face of 20th century masculinity. Few men embodied cinematic masculinity like Omar Sharif. But unlike his Western contemporaries, Brando, Connery, Eastwood, Sharif was gentle, introspective, melancholy. His masculinity was Mediterranean, emotional, poetic, expressive, elegant. His characters were not conquerors, they were searchers. In Dr. Zhivago, he is not a revolutionary. He is a poet who sees the world slipping through his fingers. In Funny Girl, he is a gambler who can't hold on to love. In Monsieur Ibrahim, he is a father figure who listens more than he speaks. Where many actors played dominance, Sharif played vulnerability, and made it charismatic. He didn't need to shout or rage, his silences carried as much power as his words. Large Diamond Exile, not as geography, but as destiny. Omar Sharif's story is one of internal exile. He never left his homeland in hatred, he left in hope. But once he crossed that threshold, he never returned in the same way. When I walk in Cairo, people no longer call me Michel or Omar. They call me the foreigner. It hurts more than I admit. Exile, for him, was not a punishment, it was a condition of his artistic birth. He had to leave to become visible. But visibility in the West required him to shrink his identity, to fit the roles they wrote for him. He often spoke of a dream of returning to a simpler life, where he could sit at cafes and talk with friends without flashbulbs or film scripts. Large Diamond. His films as mirror of self. Omar Sharif's most famous roles closely mirrored the arc of his life. Sharif Ali in Lawrence of Arabia is a man caught between tribal loyalty and imperial politics. Yuri Zhivago in Dr. Zhivago is an artist whose love and work are shattered by history. Nicky Arnstein in Funny Girl is a gambler who can't stay rooted, even when loved. Monsieur Ibrahim is the man who has lived through the pain of history and chosen kindness over bitterness. Sharif didn't just perform, he often seemed to live within his roles. Or perhaps hide inside them. He once said acting allowed him to be more honest than real life did. Large Diamond. His final years, the philosopher emerges in the last decade of his life. Sharif turned away from fame. He gave philosophical interviews, smoked cigars in quiet cafes, and read poetry. He said he had made peace with his regrets. Everything in life comes with a price. I paid mine. I have loved, I have lost, I have seen the world. He no longer lived in palaces or hotels. He became what he always was deep down, a storyteller, roaming between cities, memories, and metaphors. Yellow Square. Final reflection. Omar Sharif as cultural compass. Omar Sharif's life asks timeless questions. What does it mean to belong? Can a man remain whole when he splits his identity to survive? Is success still success when it costs your deepest love? What is home? A place, a person, a language, a memory? He never answered these questions. He embodied them. His life was a poem of exile, an ode to elegance, and a warning about the cost of being everyone's and no one's at the same time. In the end, he gave the world more than beautiful films. He gave it a mythic figure, a man who walked the tightrope between worlds, smiled through sorrow, and spoke to the longing in every soul that has ever felt out of place. Omar Sharif, the last romantic of a vanishing world, candle and icon of a lost cosmopolis. Omar Sharif was not born into the nation-state, but into the Mediterranean dream. Alexandria, Cairo, Beirut, cities that once shimmered with Levantine hybridity. These cities were polyglot, multi-religious, mercantile, sensual. They produced poets, exiles, traders, and actors, not just citizens. In that world, being Arab, French-educated, Melkite Christian, later Muslim, and elegant wasn't a contradiction, it was the essence of being complete. Sharif became the cinematic afterglow of that Levantine twilight, the flickering flame of a world undone by modern borders and ideologies. He carried that vanishing world into every frame, even when wearing a Russian coat or British uniform. Fire. The erotic distance of Omar Sharif. Sharif wasn't merely handsome, his allure was phantom-like, a charisma rooted in distance. His eyes always seemed to be looking slightly past the person speaking to him, not out of arrogance, but out of melancholy awareness that the moment could never be held. In every film, he was the lover you couldn't keep, the man who left you too soon, emotionally, geographically, spiritually. In Funny Girl, Nicky Arnstein is both enchanted and crushed by Barbra Streisand's devotion. In Zhivago, Yuri loves Lara completely but watches history tear her away. In Lawrence, Sharif Ali is fierce but ultimately silent, fading into the desert. Sharif played Eros not as possession, but as a beautiful ache, the romance of impossibility. Tornado. The Empire's favorite Arab Hollywood adored him, but in a curated way. Sharif was the acceptable Arab, no politics, fluent in French, attractive to Western audiences. Willing to play roles disconnected from Arab reality. He was cast not because he was Arab, but because he was an Arab they could imagine, charming, articulate, never too foreign. He once joked, "They only gave me roles when they couldn't cast a white actor." Yet, ironically, he humanized Arabs for Western audiences in ways that few others dared, not by playing heroes, but by playing men with souls. Brain. The intellectual gambler. In private, Sharif was more like a writer than an actor. He read Proust, played championship bridge, wrote columns, and lamented the shallowness of celebrity. He often described Hollywood as a circus, and while he enjoyed the excess, he never respected it. He treated bridge as a metaphor for life, strategic, psychological, elegant, and cruel. He said love was like a game, you must risk everything, but play wisely. His friends described him as restless, always drifting between conversations, ideas, places, as if no single role or city could hold his full self. Luggage. A life in airports. There's a deep sadness that runs through Sharif's life, not tragic in the operatic sense but quiet. Like the loneliness of a man who knows too many hotels. He once said, "The place I spend the most time is airports. It is where I live." Airports, between countries, between identities, between arrivals and departures. That is where Omar Sharif belonged, not on land but in the threshold, the eternal in-between. Mirror. The mirror of the Arab soul. Sharif's myth endures in the Arab imagination not because he made it in Hollywood, but because he embodied the contradictions that so many modern Arabs live with. How to be modern without erasing tradition. How to succeed globally without betraying origin. How to love freedom without losing family. How to be cosmopolitan without becoming rootless. He wasn't the ideal Arab, he was the honest one. Flawed, brilliant, lonely, seductive, regretful, and unforgettable. Coin. Final thought. The price of immortality. Sharif gave up everything for cinema, his marriage, his homeland, his language, his identity's purity. In exchange, he became immortal, not just in reels of film, but in the collective memory of East and West. His face remains burned into history, not smiling for the cameras, but gazing somewhere between the Nile and the Seine, between Cairo and Cannes, between the man he was and the man the world asked him to be. He was never truly seen, but he is never forgotten. Omar Sharif, the exile of the self-quarter moon. The man who played everyone but himself. Omar Sharif's gift, and his burden, was his ability to disappear into anything. A Russian doctor, a Bedouin warrior, a Jewish gambler, a Turkish grocer. He was everyone, and in becoming so many, he lost any claim to being just one thing. He lived not in a fixed identity, but in metamorphosis. I had no country, no religion, no woman. I only had roles. He was Michel Dimitri Chaloub, then Omar El Sharif, then Sharif Ali, then Zhivago, then Monsieur Ibrahim, then a fading myth smoking alone in a Monte Carlo cafe. His life was a dialogue between the man and the mask, and by the end, no one, not even Sharif, could fully tell them apart. Film projector cinema as sanctuary and exile. Sharif's career can be read as a ritual of longing. His films aren't just stories, they are acts of yearning, yearning for love in a world of war, Zhivago. Yearning for understanding across cultures, Monsieur Ibrahim. Yearning for honor in a desert of betrayal, Lawrence. Yearning for a home that no longer exists, The Tamarind Seed. His characters were always in motion, physically or emotionally. Like him, they were never still, never settled. Hollywood gave him light, luxury, and legacy. But it also trapped him in translation, between languages, between expectations, between gazes. Sharif wasn't just a foreign actor, he was the foreigner, full stop. The world's favorite stranger. Hourglass. The memory of a vanishing age. Sharif's elegance belongs to a time we no longer inhabit, when actors were icons, when men wore suits to dinner, when charm was as valuable as muscle, when you could believe in romance without irony. He represents a kind of vanishing masculinity, not fragile but tender, not dominant but dignified, not loud but luminous. He reminds us that grace once mattered, that heartbreak could be heroic, that to live beautifully, even in sorrow, was its own form of resistance. Crystal Ball. The prophet of cultural limbo in some strange.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching.